All right, thank you for joining us on the program. Let's begin the conversation on the show this afternoon. I have joining me virtually from Lagos, Austin Adigwe. Austin Adigwe is a banker, economist, someone who is in the field. So I'm pretty sure Austin will have more answers to us on this show this afternoon. Good afternoon, Austin. Happy Valentine's to you.
Good afternoon, Lawrence, and thanks for having me. Good
All right,
afternoon,
good to
viewers.
have you on the show this afternoon. Okay, let's take a look at there's so much burden that has been placed on the chest of every Nigerians. There have been so much tariff we've been battling with. Let's not talk about subsidy anymore because we're not used to it. So we're out from the whole subsidy thing. Recently, it was telecommunication subscribers. We had the port authority guys that said they want to increase tariff. Different, every sector were just coming out with they want to increase. So on Monday, the Apex Bank, the CBN, the number one bank in the country, did a raise in off-network ATM withdrawal. This was something that started since 2019. It used to be 65 naira. Later on, I don't know how it was negotiated, they brought it down to 35 naira. Now, the Apex Bank is saying that from 1st of March 2025 is going to be 100 naira per every 20,000 withdrawal of off-network ATMs. So, for instance, I'm using Bank A, then I go to Bank B to withdraw from their ATM. Whether up to 20,000 or above 20,000, I withdraw from them, I will be charged 100 naira. These charges, are they not too much burdens for Nigeria to bear? Because I will go in details to all the charges we are paying in the banks in the course of this conversation. I will outline all of that. I have them with me. So let's make sense out of this whole charges here, charges there, charges there.
Okay, thank you very much, Lawrence. Thank you for having me once again. There are certain increases that are just necessary, okay, to sustain services in some of these sectors, just like you rightly mentioned, the telecom, because these industries are not immune to what is actually happening in the wider economy. So you look at inflation, you look at the exchange rates, so their cost of operation has also gone up. Now, in the case of the hike or the increase in ATM withdrawal charges, we'll call it not on us, all right? Not on us charges or remote on us. That's when you're withdrawing from another institution using another bank's card. Those charges has always been there, just that at some point, CBN made it free for customers to do 3 transactions, from different institutions, all right, in a month. The first 3 transactions were categorized as free. So, but now, reintroducing these charges and at this scale will, number one, help to reduce dependence or reliance on cash for transactions, because at some point we need to also migrate from this cash economy to a credit-driven economy, which will rely less on cash. So I think that the first thing they are trying to achieve is to discourage people from transacting solely, with cash. Where it is possible, you can actually use your electronic transfer option. That's one. Secondly, you see, banks have come under serious criticism for not loading their ATM machines. But what has been happening, from a survey that has been conducted, is that banks load their machines and you find people who now trade on cash because of that window of first 3 withdrawals, okay, in a month, going as free. So you find an individual that is running a POS business, okay, having accounts in virtually all the banks. So he gets to an ATM machine and is able to do withdrawals using these various cards. Keep in mind, when the first 3 transactions or what we currently have now, that the first trade transactions done on another bank's ATM, okay, will be treated free, which means the cost is passed to the institution that issued that card. So it has not always been free, because ATM business involves infrastructure, both the physical infrastructure, which is the ATM, okay, then you have interested parties like the switching companies, okay, and that's why you go to a Zenith Bank, your account in, for example, First Bank is debited. Okay, so there are so many things that goes into, ensuring that these ATMs are up and running. Then you look at network too. Banks pay so much, to run these ATM machines. So at the end of the day, if your net remote on us is higher, then the ATM business becomes like less attractive. If more of your customers are using your cards on other banks' machines, okay, so you find that you're going to be recording losses on your ATM. So as a business entity, I do not think that you want to increase your investment where it is very, very obvious that you are incurring losses, month on month.
You said so much, and this is where it now spike me asking more questions here. You made mention about the banks have been accused of not loading their ATMs. The reason why the ATM came on board years ago is to help facilitate easy and quicker access to cash, so that those who want to withdraw easily, you can just go to any ATM around, you make your withdrawal peacefully without going to the whole queue inside the banking hall. You try to avoid so many things. But lately we've now seen that these banks ATMs, it seems to be there as just for show. I know of a bank in this city where I live in. It's at the heart of the city, a very big and popular bank. They have 7 stand of ATM in front of the bank. You will go there, you will not see money to withdraw from the ATM. But the guy using POS that is standing beside the ATM or somewhere around the corridor of the bank, just start calling you POS, POS. So the question a lot of persons ask is, if the banks that are supposed to be in possession with the money, or rather the cash, don't have the cash, the POS agents on the streets, the ones beside the bank, where do they get their money from? Who gives them the cash that they are trading on? Because this is supposed to be a situation whereby the ATM is there to help us quell this whole issue of, at the end of the day, you don't go to the bank and spend hours because you want to withdraw as little as 5 or 10,000 as the case may be. Then you also made mention of the charges has been there. Yes, it has been there, but not to this cost now. It used to be 65 naira, then it came down to 35 naira. Now you are raising it to more than 100 naira. So if we should do the percentage, that should be like almost 100% or even more. So let's walk around this. Why will ATMs not have cash, but the POS guy beside, or lady or woman or girl, is having cash?
Okay, Lawrence, I tried explaining, though it may not hold, it may not be valid for all situations. But what has been discovered, okay, lately is that there are individuals that do these multiple withdrawals from the ATM. Every single branch of a bank has what is called the cash limit. The volume of cash that is, approved to be held at close of every single business. And that also includes whatever you have in your ATM, all right, your ATM machine. Cash management is a very, very expensive business. Very, very expensive business. The bullion van you see moving from one branch of a bank to another branch of a bank costs a lot of money. So in managing your liquidity, you must put a lot of things into consideration. Like I said, it's possible that there are branches of banks that play game, with their ATM loading. But I also know that there are individuals that are trading now on cash. And what they simply do is open accounts with multiple banks. Before you that just need small cash to transit or to do one or two things, get to the ATM point, they've almost like emptied whatever you've loaded the previous day. So that's a fact. And how are they able to do that? If my first 3 withdrawals, okay, remote or not, is free, then I simply come to the ATM, make 3 different withdrawals from several other bank ATMs, knowing fully well that I'm not going to be charged, my bank is going to be charged for that transaction. Then I go across the road and start dispensing the same cash for a fee. So this is going to curtail that, because if you go to the ATM now to withdraw 20,000, already it's going to cost you 100 naira. As a POS operator, it then means that whatever you're charging whoever is coming to you will have that 100 naira factored into it. And then your customer will then have to decide whether to conclude the transaction using electronic transfer or to go ahead and part with so much for 20 naira. Recall that I did mention that those charges has always been there. So if you are in business, the primary objective is to make profits. And you suddenly realize that this your ATM business is consistently giving you losses. As a business person, do you think you'd want to, increase investment and the energy towards that particular line of business? So what CBN has done is just to encourage banks to ensure that banks now take their ATM business seriously. Because for every single transaction that goes through their machine or goes from their card, okay, charges will no longer hit the bank, but the customer that is actually performing such transaction. Now, look at what they also said on off-site ATMs. Those are standalone ATMs. If you find ATMs in bank branches, you also have shared services. The power you use, the energy or power you use for your branch activities will also power the ATM. But if you have an off-site location where your branch is, or where a branch does not have presence, you have to provide separate power, you have to provide separate security, you have to provide separate network. And CBN is saying that if you're going to withdraw from an off-site ATM, apart from the 100 naira base charge, for every 20,000, there is going to be a surcharge of 500, and it's optional. When you're prompted for these charges, you can decline it, and then on the same ATM, do electronic transfer.
I will come in here.
Instead of
Do
cash.
they prompt before they debit? They don't. You don't get any prompt. The next thing you see is that they've debited you or they sent you a mail of debit. So we don't get a prompt in this country at all.
No. So if anyone that is charged without the prompt, okay, can actually take it up. If it's possible, you screenshot every single process. You take it up with the bank, you report, because CBN has also made it very, very mandatory. Before the cash is dispensed, you're prompted that you're going to be charged this amount, okay, for this transaction. So you can opt not to continue. You can also continue if it is truly very important you get that cash. So you're supposed to be prompted, yes.
Okay. Now, let me read out some of the charges we've been burdened with before now. Current bank charges in Nigeria across all banks and current charges in Nigeria across all banks. 1. As a result of the new CBN guideline, transactions below 5,000 naira will incur a maximum fee of 10 naira. Transfer between 5,000 naira and 50,000 will attract a charge fee of 25 naira. That has been there, and we see that happen on a daily basis. 2. The present account card maintenance cost has been eliminated because the account has already been an account maintenance fee. Savings account will now be charged card maintenance of 50 naira every quarter rather than 50 naira every month. So every quarter that ought to be 3 months. But we don't see that happen. We see this happen even almost weekly. 3. The annual card maintenance cost for cards denominated in foreign currency FCY has been decreased from $20 to $10. So this is for foreign currency owners, say pound, euro, and other foreign currencies, the dollar and all that. 4. After the third withdrawal within a month, ATM fees are lowered to 35 naira from 65 naira. This was actually the first one that it has been before it came down to 35 naira. 5. The charge for a hardware token will be based on the cost recovery and will be capped at 2,500 naira from the previous maximum charge of 3,500 naira. Then 6. Fees for required SMS charge will be based on the cost recovery model with a maximum price of 4 naira in place previously. Then 7, and the last of what I have here, payment of bills via e-channels will incur a maximum charge of 500 naira based on 0.75% of the transaction valued at 1,200 naira. Now, Adigwe, you will share more light on what I just read out after this short break. We'll go on a break. When we return, we'll walk through this. Then we'll now look at how this will scare Nigerians probably from using ATMs, because it seems like we are paying for some certain things we are not even using. So after the break, we'll look at these statistics I just read out and continue the conversation. Just stay with us. All right, thank you for staying with us on the program. It's still business this week. We're still having a conversation about the new ATM withdrawal charge by the Apex Bank, the CBN, charges too much to bear for Nigerians. My guest is still with me on the program, Austin Adigwe, joining me virtually from Lagos. Austin Adigwe is an economist and someone who works also with the banking sector. He understands the system and what happens in the banking sector. So, Austin, you heard me when I read out 7 of those charges we had before now and how Nigerians have been grumbling about it. Now, this is coming. There was one they were supposed to introduce at a time, which somehow we don't know how they embedded it, whether it's still there, but they told us they removed the cyber security levy, whatever. But these whole charges we had now that you heard me read out, and this not too much, then adding another burden to this burden to Nigerians. Don't you think, as someone who understands the system very well, that this will scare people away, either from using ATMs that are off network or even using their own ATMs? Because I've seen cases where people say, I get account, but I don't need ATM card. You know, those kind of mindset and thoughts. What's your take on that?
Okay, so Lawrence, you also have to understand that the banking sector is the most regulated sector in the country, the most regulated. Fees for every single service is determined by central bank. And of course, as a customer of the bank, if you feel that your bank is going outside the prescribed fees by central bank, it is within your right to demand a refund. And if that refund is not forthcoming, you report the issue to central bank. I'm speaking as a concerned Nigerian. I'm not speaking for the banks. I don't have the authority to speak for them, but I just understand that as a Nigerian that would still wish to have banking services, flourish in our country, there comes a time when I also need to make some sacrifices, because these businesses may go down if certain things are not done correctly. A lot has changed, since May 2023, when we began this journey of the new administration. A lot has changed. Even transportation, what it used to be pre and post President Tinubu era, hasn't remained the same. So banks too, they go to the same markets to procure diesel. Okay, their workers are asking for pay rise and so on and so forth. So the operating cost is also on the high side. And keep in mind, it's not compulsory for banks, all right, to run ATM business. That ATM business is to create more convenience and accessibility of cash to their customers, okay, because of the regimented time that banks open and close. It's not every single transaction, because we are still cash driven, that you'll be able to do using electronic transfer, like commuting from one bus stop to the other. You are not expected to start doing transfer to the conductor, or probably if they have a POS terminal in the bus. So it's easier, it's more convenient to also carry some level of cash for transactionary purposes. I understand that, and that's fine. But there are a lot of options. Okay, these charges that we're talking about now only relates to not on us transactions. So if I have account with bank A and I do my cash withdrawals on bank A ATMs, okay, spread across the country, I won't be thinking of any charge. It's zero. There is no charge for that. We are now talking about withdrawal across institutions that have also invested heavily on the IT solutions. But again, these charges don't just default straight to the banks. There is a middleman, the switching company, InterSwitch, that connects or that gives connectivity between and among the banks. The services too, all right, are remunerated through these charges that we are talking about. Because the 100 naira is not flying into that bank's P&L as profit or income. The switching company has a share, the ATM owner, the acquirer, has a share, and so on and so forth. So this is how the business will definitely attract more investment in that space. But if we just continue to look at it from the standpoint that, okay, you're not supposed to adjust your fees to reflect the current realities. Keep in mind that it's not statutory that you must have ATM as a bank, all right? You are just doing that to create convenience. And you're also doing that to help your own brand. But if it becomes difficult for you to operate your ATMs, what then happens? If banks start shutting down their ATM because they are incurring huge losses, is that also going to make it any better? Just like when the argument was on telecom should not raise their tariffs and so on and so forth. I'm also impacted. I'm affected, but I do know that raising their tariff to at least cover their variable cost is the surest way of keeping these service providers afloat. Otherwise, they will go down. It's a fact. So it boils down to the government. If they know truly that the interest of Nigerians is the reason why they are in government, they have to do things differently so that these inputs into our strategic industries are reduced. The cost of these inputs are reduced to the barest minimum. And all these charges we are seeing will no longer be coming. But as long as inflation continues to bite harder, exchange rate continues to worsen, keep in mind that ATMs are not produced in Nigeria, they are imported. Any bank that is bringing in any machine today will have to, first of all, source for the USD at the prevailing exchange rates before importation can happen.
Banks have the foreign exchange at their leverage.
No.
Does the bank also have issues? Does the bank also have issues with sourcing for foreign currencies? If individuals like me or you and I, because you said you are speaking as a concerned Nigeria, you are not speaking because you are in that sector or you are an economist. Because at the end of the day, it affects everyone. It's a chain. Are we now saying even the banks that transact with the USD, with the pounds and euros, still have challenges in assessing these currencies?
Okay, so banks don't bring in ATMs in their names. Okay, these are also outsourced to contractors.
Okay.
Who will then source for these forests.
Yeah.
And bring in the ATM based on the exchange rates.
Okay.
Of FS at the point of, getting into that contract. No bank can open from M to bring in ATM. No. All these things are outsourced. They have contractors. So, for example, if there is need to deploy ATM machines in any branch, a contractor has to do that. And this contractor needs FS to buy these machines. When the exchange rate was like 460, and let's assume the machine goes for like $20,000, you then see how much Naira has to exchange. Now, today, in the parallel market or even at the R&E window, it's around 1,500. So you now need more Naira to bring in the same unit of an ATM machine. And that is just the infrastructure. That is just the hardware infrastructure. There are so many other things that goes into this. You don't also want to get to an ATM machine, even though it has cash, but no network. No network to read your card, debit you, and dispense cash. That's also not what we want. So for the system to operate efficiently, I think CBN has painfully considered all the options. Do we kill investment in this space?
All right.
Or do we allow the banks not necessarily to make profits, but to recover their costs?
Okay. Let's now look at the should we say the environment? Because basically Nigerians have this mindset that if you're charging them for anything, make sure that thing you're charging them for is available. They wouldn't cry too much. You made mention of network issues, which has been paramount. It has been something that has been there, like it's an everyday occurrence. I can still remember I have one issue now for more than almost a month. They've not done my reversal. I don't go to the banking hall. I don't have that time. So what I do is I send mails. So if these issues are there, the CBN, aren't they supposed to tackle these issues first before coming out with increase in this, in that? You know we have network issues. A telecom company came out yesterday to tell us that they increased their whatever by 200%, that it was a mistake. Like, who openly opens their eyes and, go ahead with such sort of mistake? Then they came out this morning, they wrote, and they started apologizing that it's a mistake. So isn't the CBN the number one bank supposed to put things in place like what you mentioned, checking the whole network issues of debit without payment? But then when you need your reversal, it takes almost 1 year, sometimes in some cases months. But when they are doing that debit at that point in time, it does not take time. Before you know, even if it is a network failure, they will debit the person. So the CBN on their own, aren't they supposed to put things in place before going ahead with this increase? Because like I said earlier, Nigerians are ready to pay for what they are seeing that is working for them.
Yeah, you're very correct. You're very correct. And I feel banks also need to do more in the area of issue resolution. The turnaround time that is actually used to resolve, we call it dispense error. These dispense errors or whatever issues that the customer may have, in the course of using any of these platforms. There is need for the regulator to establish a standard turnaround time. If there is a dispense error on an ATM and it's not automatically reversed within 24 hours, meaning that you now have to adopt a manual reconciliation, there must also be a time frame. It must not be open indefinitely. Because what usually happens is that, particularly when you're using another bank's machine, and they probably at the point of the machine dispensing the cash, if there is a glitch or there is a break in communication, because what you find is a handshake between two different banks. If there is a glitch anywhere and you're debited, but the cash is not dispensed, the system is supposed to reconcile itself and then return that value back to the customer without the customer prompting the system. That is how it was designed to work. But in our own client, most things don't necessarily work the way they are designed to work. And for some reasons, I don't even know any reason to
they are
abuse.
not doing their job.
But yeah, because at times, it can be very frustrating I've also been in a situation where I had about just a certain amount of money
Yeah.
in that account that has card, and I went on an ATM and I was debited, did not dispense, and I did not even have any other money to continue.
Exactly.
I
You're
sat,
stranded
I
at that
sat
point in
there.
time.
Yeah, I understand. I sat there. I waited for so long a time. This money didn't come. I had to call a friend to do
Oh,
another
can you
transfer
imagine?
to that account. So we all see these things. Yes, the banks need to improve. No doubt, they need to
Okay.
improve. Okay,
All right.
but
As we begin to wrap up, these charges, are they not too many for the average Nigerian to bear? That because that is where the channel of this conversation is going right now. We have subsidy, like I said earlier, we shouldn't talk about that anymore. We have the telecom, we have which other one? There's just so many. In fact, I can't even remember the charges we're paying in this country anymore. So are they not too much for an average Nigerian who is being paid 70,000 naira as minimum wage to bear?
yes, considering our income level and the difficulties, in even earning an income in the country, I would say Nigerians are overtaxed, Nigerians are overcharged in every ramification. Okay, but somehow people are just docile, people are indifferent about these things. Okay, I don't know what else is going to happen that will force Nigerians to stand up and ask for what is right. Okay, ask to be governed properly because, well, speaking as an individual, I'm not going to speak for Nigerians. Speaking as an individual, I think the charges are just too many. They are just too many. All right, we are now spending so much on different hikes that has happened, and our incomes are not necessarily growing commensurate to what we are losing. And that's why the economy is also tanking. For me, I believe the charges are too many and they are too much on Nigerians. But why Nigerians are happy with it, they are not talking about it, everybody is just indifferent. Well, we'll continue to ride the storm. That's what I would say.
But why Nigerians are not talking about it, we just keep smiling, or rather, they say suffering and smiling. But we just hope it doesn't get to a point where the citizens will wake up and revolt. We just hope it doesn't get to that point because things are really biting
Well,
hard on the average Nigerians. Thank you very much for your time on the program this afternoon. I want to really appreciate you for your insight into all of this. Thank you so much. Speaking as a Nigerian, not for that
as a
sector.
Nigerian, yeah, as a Nigerian.
Thank you very much, Austin Adigwe. We appreciate you for your
Thank you,
time.
Lawrence.